Perfect. So I think we're ready to go. So yeah, thanks for coming, guys. This is Kristi with LibraryThing. So as you probably already knew, I'll be doing the TinyCat webinar for you, just sort of showing you everything that TinyCat has to offer for your small library, front to back. The front end of TinyCat is what you'll actually share with visitors and patrons. And then the back end of TinyCat will be your admin portal, and it's got everything that you need for actually managing your TinyCat account. Once we do that, we can dig into the actual process of how you would catalog your library, and I'll actually pass that on to Tim to handle. So with that said, we can go ahead and get started. So basically, for those of you who aren't familiar with LibraryThing or TinyCat at all, what the two systems are, they work together very nicely. LibraryThing sort of acts like your ILS or your integrated library system. It's always going to be where you're actually cataloging and editing the records for your library. And then TinyCat sits on top of your LibraryThing account and transforms it into this wonderful online public access catalog that you can share with visitors and patrons. And it also has the features that you want for tracking any circulation and patron data. So I use Folio Seattle Athenium to showcase the homepage for TinyCat here. They've been with us pretty much since the beginning. And looking at the page initially, you can see that it's pretty clean, void of any unnecessary distractions. It was developed to be very user-friendly and intuitive, and I think the developers definitely did a very good job with this. TinyCat is also mobile-friendly, so you'll see that as I resize my screen, it automatically resizes to still look and function really nicely. So you can use this on your smartphones or tablets and without actually needing an external app. So that's a really nice feature. At the top of your homepage, you can add a logo or a picture of your logo with a nice custom welcome message. And then that's followed by the prominent search bar here. There's two types of searches you can run in TinyCat. There's a basic search, and then there's an advanced search if you just click the little caret button here, and that'll give you more control over your search. I'll go over exactly, what those searches can look like in just a couple minutes. So also on the homepage, we've got this animated cover display. Just adds a little bit of eye candy to the page, and you can customize how you want that to be displayed as well. And then above and below the cover display, there's further content that you can customize. A lot of libraries will include links to highlighted collections or tags in their library, or they might add, contact information for the library, things like that. So let's go ahead and look at a search page next. And I'm actually going to dive into my own TinyCat since I know where everything is. And we'll run a search for science. All right, so running a search, you can see the number of search results right at the top left. If there's multiple pages of search results, you'll be able to tab through them in the middle here. And then at the right, there's a little drop-down menu. You can actually sort your search results. Search results are always sorted by relevancy by default, but you have some other sort options here, like title, author, popularity. And popularity is calculated by LibraryThing. So you'll see that if I do that, I've got Harry Potter showing up at the top, The Little Prince, Handmaid's Tale. That makes sense. These are all pretty popular items. At the right of my search page, I've got search facets or filters that your visitors and patrons can use. And this will just enable them to quickly narrow or broaden their searches however much they want. So I ran a search for science. Maybe I just want to also narrow that to the fantasy genre. And I can click that. And now I've got 25 items in my search page. I can also clear that by clicking it a second time. I can click multiple facets as I need to broaden my search. So that is pretty easy to use. On the left side of the page, as far as content that you can include for your items, I pretty much have everything that you can include. And that would be, any tags that you've added to your records, collections data, series information, any barcodes and call numbers, availability status, and then these 3 action buttons, what we call them. I will show you what these do, but basically you can enable self-checkout for your patrons. And then you can also let anybody ask about a particular item. We still always have that book cover showing for visual recognition. And then there are 2 buttons beneath the book covers that you can include. We've got a little email button here that you can actually email information about an item to yourself or a friend or somebody. And then you can actually add an item to a starred list. So this little star button here will go ahead and do that for you. I'm just going to add a few items to demonstrate that for you. You'll see that they're tallying up in the top right here as I add more items. Starred lists are great for things like reading lists or research projects, really just any reason why you might want to get a list built within a catalog. Once you're ready to handle the starred list, you'll just click the top right star here, and that will bring you to everything in your starred list. And you can actually email that entire list to yourself or your research partner or anybody else that you might need. You can actually share automatically with up to 5 emails as long as you're separating them by commas. So I'm going to click send, and now that list of items was shared. So pretty easy. Starred lists are always session-based, so with each new browser session, this list will automatically clear for you, but you can also just use the clear list button here if you want to make multiple lists within the same session, and that will clear everything out for you, and then you can just start over. Any questions so far on what I just sort of zoomed through as far as the homepage or basic searches? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can just use the chat feature if you need.
Yeah, I have a question. I was wondering, our school is just starting to look at TinyCat and consider it for our classroom libraries. And we really want to try to highlight the Lexile score of the book. But the way that I was looking at it, it seemed like the Lexile was kind of buried in the about the book section. I was wondering if there's any way we can make it so you can search by Lexile.
You know what? That's a great question. I'm not sure if Lexiles are in our search for TinyCat or not. I can double check that. I'm going to see if I can double check that maybe towards the end of our session, and if not,
can we go into one of the items and let's find a Lexile?
Sure. Well, let me just. I'm going to actually look in my own library so I can. There we go.
I don't know if it's going to have it, but
yeah, exactly.
It is in the index. It is in the search index, so it should be searchable. If it's not currently searchable, we can easily add it because it's part of the primary search index.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the UI is right now for seeing other books at the same Lexile level. You know.
For the UI, if you're searching it, it would just be like a regular search page.
No, I know when you click on Lexile.
I don't know if that would be a clickable data or not. I think it's sort of.
Now, do you see the students are given a Lexile level and they do it, or this is a teacher and parent used feature?
This is something that we are hoping to have the students be able to use for book searches within the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So
why don't we get back about it? But that's an interesting thing for us to look into.
There, I found one in my library. So
you did, okay.
So it looks like it's not searching it right now. So we should be able to add that.
We can make that searchable. Yeah.
To TC search. Okay. That's no problem. Good question. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's going to be really helpful because we're trying to get the students in the habit of, moving away from the catchy cover and or I've heard of this, book before because a friend read it, and more into where are your reading levels and trying to search by the reading level. And that would be super helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's not already added. Yeah. So yeah, no problem. We can totally do that. All right. So that was that was basic search. I did mention we also have advanced search. So this, if you click the little advanced search page here, this will give you much more control over what you're searching for. You can search for most of your fields here using the little drop-down menu. You can search multiple fields using the Boolean search logic or search syntax. And then you can also limit your searches here. So you can limit by collection, by language, and also by media type. This is what I usually recommend using if you want to add highlighted searches to your homepage. This will pretty much give you exactly what you want, and then you can just copy and paste your search page URL to your homepage links and have them basically sort of like a mimic browse feature. So that is advanced search. So next, I think I will show you book pages in TinyCat. We call them detail pages. So let's go to Harry Potter. That's a good one. All right, so these are detail pages in TinyCat. This is, really, really customizable. You can exactly, outline what fields you want on this page, so you can really customize the look and feel of your TinyCat here. Some of the highlighted fields you can include, of course, all of your tags. And just like Tim mentioned earlier, these are all clickable. So if you, click through, you'll see all of your fantasy tags in your catalog and so on and so forth. We've got Library of Congress subject headings. We have ratings available, book awards that the book has been listed on LibraryThing. We've got published media reviews, librarian vetted user reviews. And one of my favorites are LibraryThing's book recommendations. So the similar in this library will actually show your visitors and patrons similar items. And again, we've got so much data to pull from. I think we've got maybe almost 2.5 million, maybe more members on LibraryThing. So lots of data to pull from. LibraryThing probably has some of the best recommendations around. Back up to the top here. Of course, we've still got the book covers, and we still have that email button and the starred list button, but you'll notice that you can also add social media buttons to your items as well. So folks are able to share items on their Facebook or Twitter or something like that.
One thing I wanted to say was that recommendations are only for books that are within your library, right? So they have to be cataloged in your library. So
Yes.
As nice as it would be to recommend other things, we want to make sure that it stays within the library system. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Different from what a LibraryThing would actually do, which
right.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's go over these 3 action buttons that I mentioned earlier. So you can enable self-checkout for your patrons. If you've got, a classroom library or something like that, you can let your students check items out by themselves. Same thing with placing holds. You do have to have them added into the system as a patron. So you will have to either add or import your patrons before they're able to actually log in and do this. So make sure you do that, and I'll show you how that would go from your admin portal. But if I was a patron, I can just go ahead and click the checkout button if I wanted to check this book out. And then it's going to prompt me to log in. So this, hey, what's the password? This means that I am in simple circulation mode. There's 2 different types of patron accounts you can offer for your library. Simple circulation is great for high trust environments, things like classroom libraries. This is where all of the patrons will get the same password. And then full circulation patron accounts is where each patron will get their own login. So once I'm ready to log in, I'm just going to go ahead and enter the password and hit enter. And then it's giving me a pop-up with all of the patrons in the system. And you can actually customize how you want these patrons to be displayed to the patrons. You can just show barcode numbers too if you want to keep privacy. But I'm going to go ahead and check this book out to Draco Malfoy. Click check out. Okay, so it's confirmed. And the availability status is automatically refreshed. It is showing me the book is checked out. I also have it customized to show the due date. And you'll notice that the placehold and the checkout buttons are now hidden, and they will not show up again until the book is returned. The ask about this button, this is still showing because anybody can use this. This doesn't change any, lending status of your book or anything. And just as you might expect, it's just for anybody who wants to know more about an item. So you click that, and then you would fill out the name and email address. You could actually enter a customized pop-up message here in case you wanted somebody to leave specific information in the comment field or something like that. Other than that, they might be able to just say, I want to check this out. Click submit. Then that message is getting sent to the library admin, and then they would be able to reach back out to me with my request. Daniel's asking, do you have an example of the full circulation where each person has their own account? I can quickly show you what that would look like when we get into the admin portal. I'll change my patron account settings and show you what that would look like on the front end very briefly. Yeah. Absolutely, sure. Any questions on the detail pages or checkout or anything? I think we're ready to go into the admin portal if nobody has any questions. Okay. So let's move along. So once you're ready to log into your admin portal to actually manage your TinyCat, you're just going to click this little lock button in the bottom right. This will show up no matter where you are in your TinyCat account. And if you're already logged in, it'll show up as a little house. So it's the same username and password as your LibraryThing account. Once you're logged in, you've got access to everything that you need for managing your TinyCat. So you've got a link back to your catalog homepage. You have all of your settings pages where you're going to customize the look and function of your TinyCat. Your check in and out page is where you can check multiple items in or out. We do keep a history of all of your lending transactions for you. Your patrons page is everything to do with your patron data. It's going to be where you add or edit or delete or merge or do anything, again, with your patrons. Your reports page, we do have some automated circulation reports that we have added for you, and I'll show you what we have available. Your billing page is where you're going to manage your TinyCat subscription. The LibraryThing page, I'm going to actually open this up in another tab. This is very useful if you're new to LibraryThing and TinyCat. I'm going to actually plug that into the chat here. This will basically give you everything that you need that exists on LibraryThing that is, just for your TinyCat. So all of the actual cataloging that you'll do on LibraryThing, we've got quick links here for you. We have various, help guides here. We also have other links that you might want for ordering library supplies and things like that. So definitely recommend giving that a look over. Daniel's asking, how long are transactions kept for? Forever.
Well, you can get rid of them.
You can delete them, and you can set. So there isn't a setting to delete them after a certain time, but you can delete them, and I think it's only a one by one delete at this time. You can't mass delete lending transactions.
Is that true?
Actually, no, that's true. You can. You can. There is a delete all transactions option, but I imagine that you're just looking to delete old ones.
Well, I think probably you do it for like the school year. You erase it last year and do this year. Would you want a different setting? Would you want a setting that was like it deletes automatically after 3 months or something like that? Daniel?
I'm not sure. Different libraries have different privacy policies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of an individual decision. But having a mass delete, and I assume that, or my question about my other question about the transactions, when you do delete everything, does it keep the stuff that's currently checked out, or does it delete that as well?
It would delete everything.
It would delete everything, yeah. This is an interesting topic, though. I think we should look into it more.
Yeah. So deleting, I'll close. So
I'm taking
a note. Okay, good. Just looking at other parameters. Perfect. Okay. So we've got the LibraryThing page there. We also have a direct link to the TinyCat help wiki. And this I would also strongly recommend if you sign up for TinyCat, give this a look over. We have written help pages on pretty much everything in your TinyCat admin portal and more. So we've even got a help page for your patrons in the other section. This will show them how they can run a search or self-check out a book or anything like that. So definitely recommend giving this a look over. We've also got a link to our YouTube channel where we post videos and tutorials and stuff. So that's a good resource. Of course, if you can't find your answer, you can always email me, and our email is listed right there. All right, back to the admin portal here. Finally, we also have a little shortcut here that will show you, how many records you've got in your library, how many items you currently have checked out and on hold, etc. And you can actually click through to view those. But let's go ahead and go to our settings page. So on the left side here, you can see we've got a lot of different settings. So I'm not going to go into great detail. I'll just try to give a quick sentence, 1 or 2 sentence summary of each. And then if you want me to go into specifics, feel free to let me know. So your basic settings is first. This is where you will view your account type, whether you have a volunteer or paid staff. You'll also be able to change your library's name and then decide what collections you want to include from LibraryThing.
So, for example, you can keep a wish list on LibraryThing of books the library wants, but not have them be within your TinyCat.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, and I think by default, like the read but unowned and wish list, I think there's certain defaults that are automatically excluded.
Right.
from your TinyCat. Content settings, this is where you'll decide what type of book covers you want displayed, any genres or collection labels you want to show. And if you happen to know JavaScript or you have a team member that knows JavaScript, you can actually add custom JavaScript to every catalog page in your TinyCat. So just an example of what that might look like. We have another TinyCat library here, the Center for Ancient Mediterranean and Near Eastern Studies. They have built this wonderful reservation and appointment form using the custom JavaScript feature. So that shows up on every catalog page in their TinyCat, and folks are able to fill that out. Your homepage settings, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's where you're going to customize exactly how you want your homepage built, any links or text you want to include on the page, and things like that. Your search page settings is where you'll decide what fields you actually want to be searched by patrons, and then what they are able to see as far as item content or search facets. Your detail page settings, that's where you're going to be able to customize that Ask About This feature that I went over. You can actually customize the name of the button entirely if you want. You can just have it shown as a, like inconspicuous little link at the bottom of your page if you don't want it as obvious. You can also include links to LibraryThing or Amazon here. And this is also where you're going to customize your sharing buttons. Detail page sections, this is where you're going to actually build your detail pages. So you can decide exactly what fields you want on the page. You can use our drag and drop feature to organize them. We've got 2 visual spacers that you can include, so you can have up to 3 different sections on your page. If you want to remove a field, just click the right X to the right of that field. We'll drop it into your inactive fields. If you want to add a field, you'll just click the up arrow and we'll drop it to the bottom of your detail page, and then you can just drag and drop wherever you want that field to live. Your patrons page is where you're going to decide how you want your patron names to be entered and displayed. And it's also where you'll decide what patron fields to actually use. We do have 4 default patron fields. You can add your own custom fields here. And you can also edit or delete your custom fields in case you made a typo or something like that. Your patron account settings. And for some reason, my internet is pausing, so bear with me. All right, here we go. So your patron account settings, that's where you're going to decide if you want self-checkout, and you're going to have to decide if you want the simple circulation patron accounts that I went over, where all of the patrons will share one common password, or you can choose full circulation patron accounts, and that's where each patron will get their own login. If you do choose this, you've got a couple other options. Most of our libraries I see using this just have the patrons log in with their barcode or ID, but you can require that they have an additional password. And if that happens, you also have a few options as far as how complex you want the password to be. So I'm going to actually click Save Changes here because, Daniel, you wanted to see what that would look like on the front end. And if I go back to my home page using full circulation patron accounts, I now have this little person button showing up at the top right. This is where full circulation patrons would log into their account. So I just have a barcode ID login. So I'm just going to enter my barcode and hit enter. And then from there, I can actually view all of my current and historical borrowing. I can see what books I've checked out, what I currently have checked out. And then I can also view and or edit my personal information that you have for me. And there's settings here that you can actually decide what fields they're able to see or edit as well. And then when I'm done, I can just sign out. So that is how the full circulation patron account would look. Circulation settings, this is where you can actually customize anything to do with your circulation. So your placehold button, checkout button, things like that. You can set your call number system if you need. You can set your default circulation period, patron hold period. All of these are right here. One recent addition that we added, some automated patron reminder emails. So you can actually start sending one overdue email and one checkout reminder email and up to 3 overdue emails to your patrons. So there's some settings here. The default is no reminder. If you do make any changes and save them, we'll start sending those emails out the following day, as long as we've got their email address. And then finally, contact info settings. This is primarily for LibraryThing's use. We do require a name and an email address, and I think the organization name, in case your account gets disabled or something like that, we want to make sure that you don't need help with anything. But other than that, you can fill in whatever you'd like here. So those are your settings. Any questions on the settings that I've gone over? I think we'll go over the check in and out page next.
Yeah, I have a question that's actually about the partial, I forget what official thing I was talking about, but partial circulation. If someone has simple circulation, and we're letting students check in and out the books, if they leave a review, because they're just using that one password login, does that mean that the books, they can't really see who reviewed it, or are they still able to see which individual reviewed a book?
So that's a great question. We actually don't have patron reviews as a feature in TinyCat yet. They would have to join LibraryThing essentially as a member to be able to add their own review. But that is a feature that has been requested before, Tim. I'm not sure what you think about that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. So I think if a school requires it, you can often get a lot of data, as much as you make them do. In general, we design products for libraries, and in general, people don't want to stand up and enter reviews into library catalogs. You want to do it on LibraryThing or Goodreads or Amazon or something like that. It's just not that fun. As much as we like to make a fun product, but it is, I think, of interest to some school systems where they want to have the students, have that as an assignment.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so if anything changes on that front, we'll let you know. All right. Any other questions? Good question.
I think just if we were to implement it, it would be critical that it only stay within the system. I mean, part of the point of LibraryThing is it's a great big social system, and by default, your reviews are read by other people, right? But I think we would have it stay within your precise library catalog.
Yeah, I think I agree too. I think that's a lot of the libraries would want it that way as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and move to the check in and out page. So as the admin here, you can check multiple items in or out here. The process is pretty straightforward. There's you can scan to add items to your item list. Somebody brings a stack of books to you. They want to check them out. If you've got ISBNs or a barcode system, you can scan to enter those. You can also manually search, basically any way you need to get this item list built. So let's go ahead and just, for test purposes, enter barcode 61, 98, and then 100. I know that's going to bring back more than one item. If that happens, we'll show you all of the results, and then you can just click the book that you need added. Once you've got your stack of books, you can continue there. Default status is always checked out. You can add a custom lending status as you need, and you can create your own as well. Then you're checking these out to a patron. So if I'm in the barcode side of it, I can actually scan patron barcodes if I've got patron cards or something like that, or enter their patron barcode. If I'm on the patron side, I can enter their name or email address, and we will find all of the matching patrons with that information. So we've also got a patron name autocomplete feature. So if I enter 3 characters of a name or an email, we will actually find all of the matching patrons in the system for you. And you can just quickly select the patron that you need. Default date is always today. You can use the date selector to change that if you need. And then it's already autofilling in my default circulation period, which is 14 days. So that's good. So I'm going to click save. And then it should confirm for me. It does right there. So then I use my shortcut to look at my transactions page. And now I can see those 3 books. I can see those 3 books at the top. And then I can see who checked them out, when they were checked out, and their due date as well. So that is the check in and out process. As I mentioned, we do keep a history of all of your lending transactions. So I use my shortcut here, but if I just went back to my admin portal and then to my transactions page, I'm still landing in the same spot. So we show you all of your active transactions first. That's items that are currently checked out or overdue or on hold and such. You can look at all of your transactions, which will include books that have already been returned or otherwise closed and such. The by title page, this is going to cluster up the lending history of each item in your library. So these pages are always sorted by most recent date. So as you can see, I use this book a lot for testing purposes. And then the status. So you can look at specific lending status in your library. If I just wanted to look at my overdue books, for example, I could do that. Also, you'll notice that from all of my transactions pages, we have this export transactions button. So this will actually export all of the transactions that you're viewing, active transactions or all and such, into a CSV file for you. So this will enable you to create your own circulation reports or do whatever you need to do in a spreadsheet format. Also on our active transactions page, we have the extend all due dates button. We actually built this at the beginning of the coronavirus when a lot of libraries were closing and needed to, postpone their due dates. But we do have a lot of libraries that are seasonal. We've got schools that could use this. So we're actually keeping this. So this will just quickly extend all of your active due dates for you if you need it. Questions on the check in and out page or transactions pages? I think we'll be ready to go into patrons page next. Here we go. So looking at patrons, as I mentioned, this is everything with your patron data. You're going to be adding, editing, deleting, all of that right here. As far as looking at your patrons, you'll see all of your patrons first. You can just view your active patrons if you need, those that have items currently checked out. And the fields page will just enable you to customize your patron data exactly how you want to see it on this page. So you just click the change fields shown button and we'll show you all of your patron fields and sort of like the detail pages you can do as you need, reorganize them and such, and then save changes. But back to all. So if you're adding patrons, you can add them one by one using the add patron button. And we'll have all of your patron data fields in here for you. So you can just fill everything in as you need and click save. You can also import your patrons in batches. And even if you're starting from scratch, this might be easier for you if you just use a CSV file and enter all of the patron data in, and then you can actually just import them pretty quickly by just browsing and uploading your import file. We'll send you to a mapping page where you're going to just line up all of the fields in your import file with all of the fields that you have in TinyCat for your patrons, and we'll just be able to quickly import them. You can also export your existing patron data once you have them in TinyCat. This is great for if you need to do mass updates or something like that. If you're a classroom library and you need to update your class lists, we do have a full import-export loop. So you can just export your existing patron data, update everything that you need, grade level and such, import them back. And as long as you're keeping the patron's name, the patron's barcode the same, we will be able to update all of your patrons for you without importing duplicate patrons. Under the more option here, Tim mentioned earlier that you can delete all of your lending transactions en masse, and this is where you would be able to do that. So we also have a delete all patrons button if you were like me and you created a bunch of Harry Potter characters during your free trial and you wanted to delete everybody before going live. Do not worry, if you accidentally click this, you actually have to confirm the request twice, so you can always click cancel. There's also a nice little pagination since we don't have a limit on how many patrons you can have in the system. If you end up getting, a few hundred patrons, you'll be able to quickly split them up into different pages. And then we've also got a quick patrons search now. So you can actually search by patron's name, barcode, or email address, and we'll find all of the matching patrons in the system. So that's pretty quick. Editing patrons one by one, going down the page here. We've got the little pencil edit button here, so you can edit an existing patron as you need. This is also where you're going to be able to merge or delete a patron. So if you do have duplicate patrons, you can actually merge the two, and we will retain the lending history of the two and just merge the contact information basically. And then one more note, this little hash button, this will only show up for you if you have full circulation patron accounts. This is only needed if you're requiring that the patrons log in with a barcode and a password. This is going to be how you actually set that password. So this is a little time consuming. If you do have a lot of patrons, you will have to do that for each patron as they need it. But it's pretty simple. You're just going to click generate new password. Based on your password settings, we'll generate a random password for you, and then you can just hand this over to them in some secure manner, over the phone or on a slip of paper or something like that. I would not recommend emailing this to them. Once you click OK, that password is now hidden, and then they will need that to log in. And you can just do the same process if you need to reset their password as well. So that is all of your patrons. Any questions on those? All right, great. You guys are making this easy for me. Okay. Let's look at the circulation reports that you have available to you. So these are some automated reports for you. We've got 3 types of checkout reports and 3 types of patron reports for you. These are all downloaded in a CSV file, and they're also all filterable by date. So if you do select filter by date, you can enter a start date and an end date. So say if you just wanted to look at this quarter or just the 2020 year or something like that, however you need. If you leave these empty, the start date is going to be the day that you signed up for TinyCat, and then the end date is going to be today. So reports actually available for you. We've got item aggregate checkout activity. This will show you how many times an item was checked out during the given time frame. We'll also show you items that were not lent out in case you're weeding the stacks or something like that. And we'll show you active checkouts, so books that were actually checked out during that time. Your patron reports, we've got a report that will show you the number of holds each patron had during a given time frame, the number of checkouts a patron had, and then individual checkout activity will show you when a patron actually checked out a book and what book they checked out and the due date and so forth. Any questions on the reports that you've got? All right. So that is the full tour of TinyCat, front to back. It's pretty simple. I know we wanted to go over more of the logistics of how you would actually catalog your your LibraryThing library. So let me see if I can just go ahead and pass on control to Tim. In a second.
Can I sneak in another question real quick?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I'm on a committee in the school to try to kind of advocate for TinyCat, and one of the concerns that some of the teaching staff had about having their own classroom libraries managed by TinyCat was that they didn't want to try to teach. They wanted the students to be able to really have a lot of control over it, and they didn't want to try to teach the students like the Dewey Decimal System or anything. And so one of the things that I was suggesting is maybe we could just say, hey, it's on shelf 1, shelf 2, shelf 3. And then we kind of have a very vague identification where the students kind of have to locate the books a little bit less like you would in an actual library. Is there a way that I could make that, other than going into book details, that I could do that in a simple way or explain it to the teachers that have that concern in a different way?
Absolutely. So basically, you would pretty much just be creating your own custom call number system, which we do support. I see a lot of schools and libraries do this as well. So they've got, blue box, red box, or shelf 1, shelf 2, things like that. So as they're cataloging or importing into LibraryThing, the teachers would actually be able to create their own custom call number system, essentially. And then they can have that show on the TinyCat search pages or detail pages so that the students are just quickly able to search and find what they need. So I'll add a few notes into that. I'll send Daniel a follow-up email that he can pass along to all of you, and I'll make sure that that's included.
Thank you.
So there's really 3 ways of doing it. There's custom call numbers. There's also tags. Tags might be the solution, where you just say, the blue shelf, the high shelf, the history books in the other room, and those are completely flexible. And the advantage of tags is that it'll suggest them to you as you type, and that if you click on the blue shelf, it'll show you all the other blue shelf books you have. And then the third way would be collections. And the collections are basically like tags, except that the idea is that tags are potentially overlapping buckets and collections are non-overlapping buckets. So you could use collections instead. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's definitely. I would not you can get the Dewey, you can get the LC if you want, but I wouldn't necessarily organize a classroom library unless that were part of what you were trying to do was teach them
Mhm.
the Dewey Decimal System. But otherwise, I certainly wouldn't. Are we cool? Shall I show a little bit about LibraryThing and putting in books?
I think we're ready. Yeah.
Yeah, so LibraryThing is this website here, and the idea of LibraryThing is that it is kind of as social as you want it to be, but it is a great big system where more than 2 million people are cataloging their books, and therefore all kinds of wonderful things are available. So, if I'm within this page here about The Hobbit, it's giving me jumping off points to see all of my friends and whether they have it in their personal library or not. It's giving me reviews from people all over the system. It's wonderful, but it's far too expansive. It's far too a large world that you don't want to have in a classroom library or school library. So the idea of TinyCat was to take just your personal books or your organization's books and put them within a much more constrained environment. Nevertheless, LibraryThing is what you use to put your books in, because we've spent a lot of time making the system good for that. So it was designed. I've used lots of systems for cataloging books, and I designed this to work better than it, to be faster than it, to be usable by somebody who doesn't have a degree in library science. So you can this is the add books page. You can put anything you want in here. You could say type in The Hobbit. You could put in a specific ISBN. You could put in a specific ISSN or UPC, any identifier that's out there. You can put in books, movies, music, CDs, DVDs, pretty much anything that's been cataloged. The sources that the data is coming from are down here, and you can see I've actually made this list here, but the total list of sources is 4,967. And so this is basically all of the Amazons plus library catalogs around the world. So, you guys will probably be just fine with the Library of Congress and something we call Overcat, which is our giant collection of library records. But if you had, if you have a need for some foreign language books, we've got the, state libraries of every major country in the world, and lots of other ones. So large numbers of sources. Even if you use a non-library source like Amazon, which is very fast and has easy, you're adding real cataloging records to your library, and LibraryThing will enhance those in various ways. For example, Amazon doesn't give out DDCs, Dewey numbers with their books, but we know what the Dewey number for your book is, so you'll get the Dewey number for the book in your TinyCat library. So you just search for it, and then you click it, and it's added to your catalog. You can subsequently add tags to it. You can do all kinds of little edits here. Change it and put it in different collections and so forth. It's all designed to be super easy for anyone to use. Then here is what your library. I have to shrink this so you can see it. But here's what your library looks like inside of LibraryThing. It's kind of an Excel document. You can change all the different columns and so forth. It's a great way to look at your books, but it's not a great way for a middle school student to look at your books, which is why we created TinyCat. But all of the editing that you need to do for the records, if you want to do editing, happens right here. And I'll turn this off, and you can just literally change the records within the catalog as if you were working with an Excel. Okay, and yeah, that's really about it. It's a system where Kristi's always available to help you, but there's a whole community of TinyCat users that you can meet on our talk system, which can help you answer questions about catalog your books and so forth. So it's a much larger community, and there's a lot more the site can do. But hopefully you'll discover that over time. So yeah, Kristi?
Yeah, I'd like to add that
Questions about good.
Yeah, more than just regular searching on the ad books page. You can actually scan the ISBNs directly. So if you've got a barcode scanner.
That's a very good point. And I should show you something else, which is that LibraryThing has apps for Android and iOS. and so you can get it on your phone. And that's
Super
if you have a
fast.
classroom library, you just take out your phone. We have this fun video where I set up like 10 books on my kitchen island, and I just went bloop 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 bloop, because the scanner is very fast, recognizes the book very quickly. So you can basically enter a classroom library as fast as you can scan the barcode on the back with your phone. We also sell cheap QCAT scanners from a million years ago that actually work pretty well, or you can use your fancy $100 scanner too. But there's a number of different ways of getting it in there and making sure that the data is of the quality and has the fields that you want. Questions about this? Actually, not looking at the chat if anyone has.
I don't see any new questions posted.
Cool. Okay. Hand it back to you.
Oh, that's great. Glad you like the app. Awesome. Yeah, it is super fast. Okay. Yeah, so I think that is pretty much all we had slated for the whole TinyCat library thing presentation. I'm available here for the next, let's say, at least until 4. So I can answer any questions if we want to have a quick Q&A session, or if you guys feel okay to go ahead and start playing around with things. If so, then if you haven't signed up for your TinyCat trial yet, I would recommend doing so. You can go to librarycat.org and there's a sign up button. And if you're not on LibraryThing yet, you can actually create your LibraryThing account and your TinyCat account all at the same time. We'll get you set up. If you find you need more time to set up your TinyCat account, just email me. I'll be happy to give you an extended trial. That's fine. But yeah, I'm here for questions if anybody needs. And if not, thank you guys for coming.
And I should just say that we're also here for your feedback. I mean, I'm one of the developers of this, and I took a couple notes, and I think we need to look into having Lexfiles be more searchable. So I'm interested in what you want and what you need.
Okay, well, this is Daniel. Thank you so much, Kristi, and thank you so much, Tim, for spending some time with us. And thanks, Guy, for all of your questions. And does anybody have any other questions for Kristi or Tim?
I just have one more general question about that's not as closely related to LibraryThing or TinyCat, but just in general, do you guys know of any tools that you use to find Lexfiles? Because there are a couple websites that I found, but just in general, when we purchase books that are not necessarily like classics like The Great Gatsby, but are by less well-known authors, I've had trouble finding some Lexile scores, and I was wondering if you guys had any tips or advice.
So I can speak to that. So Lexfiles are only made by one group, which is Metametrics, right? And my understanding is that all of them are on the Metametrics site. So if they're not on there, they don't exist. Maybe some people are doing sort of their own Lexfiles. They're very careful about making sure that they actually look at the edition. So, for example, if you did say Huck Finn, there are all kinds of publications of Huck Finn that actually simplify the language, and they don't want to just say, well, Huck Finn is 1270 or something. They want to make sure that it's true for that one. As a result of that, they don't always cover every single ISBN, which may be a problem. This is just talking because I'm one of the guys who's massaged the data where it really needs to apply to particular ISBNs. Some other systems, may cover more. Accelerated Reader, for example. But yeah, I would recommend going to the Metametrics site and just searching there.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. I know our in Alaska, our testing is through this testing called MAPS testing, and so our MAPS tests always kind of churn out, like, based on your students' results, they have this Lexile score, so that's why we're so Lexile heavy. But
really only Lexile, not other systems.
Right. They don't tell. I think there's one. They may give us like one other measure, but that's kind of the one that our school's focused on. So I'm like, So sometimes I'm trying to like come up with a guesstimated Lexile score.
Yeah, and I think you have to do that. I mean, for example, we're not allowed to by Lexile apply the Lexile score to other editions of the same work unless they've told us. But then they're also just, people pay for Lexiles. They do some pro bono, and people pay for them, so they're not on everything. They're not on everything. The other thing that interests me is Lexiles are only reading level. They have nothing to do with content appropriateness. Um, uh, I don't know what you feel about that. If that's ever a problem for you.
Yeah, I have run across that at least with at least one book where someone needed a level that was a little bit lower, and then one of the books lined up to be pretty low level, but the content wasn't that low level. So yeah,
That's an interesting
it's created
problem.
at least one hiccup for us.
Yeah. Someone just asked about the carousel, whether or not the carousel has to be constant or whether it can be manually advanced. It can be manually advanced, can't it?
No,
Oh, it's set.
it's the animated cover display. We could add a setting to,
Well, it comes from a piece of
make it
software
so.
where they have that choice, so we could easily add that.
Yeah,
If that's of interest to you. Yeah. I see
I
what you
think
mean. It would be nice if if you could choose either.
I think that would
Yeah.
be nice. It's sort of more accessible feature as well.
Here's my commitment to you. We're going to add that one. I don't know about the other ones. We're going to add that one because I totally see that.
This is Sigrid Broody. I have a small medical library that's part of the university library in Anchorage. And I was just going to say, we have a rotating carousel for the service, discovery service we use for our medical library. And it causes, and we serve patrons, healthcare providers around the state. And that rotating carousel caused a problem for people with really slow internet who were trying to get on our site from rural Alaska. So we had to disable that carousel because it seemed to slow down the broadband.
This one did?
No,
TinyCat one?
we don't use this particular. I was just
Oh,
curious.
okay.
But this was a EBSCO Discovery and Open Athens working together,
Right.
and we're fine in the cities with the faster internet, and in some of the hospitals that had the internet boost. But
Right.
for smaller, I'm guessing that for some of the smaller libraries in rural Alaska, anything where you have moving graphics might be an internet challenge. I'm not positive about it, but just
So
a
I
guess.
think we designed this in such a way that although it may take a while to come up, it is absolutely a post hoc thing so that it won't slow down the rest of the page appearing because you can kind of write it either way. And we're very aware of this because we make a lot of these kinds of products. But obviously you're right that at least it could slow down the appearance of it. I mean, one of the things
Yeah.
that's true about TinyCat in general is that, the pages are very sparse. And they're sparse for a reason. We want to eliminate both distraction and also we want to make sure that they're fast pages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just, and you've probably heard this before, but all I know is that in my experience traveling around the state, internet is so spotty, depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
It's really slow and where everything times out, and it's just so it can be a problem.
I'm
Living
in
in
Maine.
the
I think of you
I was
guys
just-
as being
yeah.
kind of our brothers.
I was just gonna say, living in the Maine woods, I can empathize.
Larger
Acer's, yeah, exactly. Acer's asking, I need to catalog my whole library. When I scan the book in, how much information comes up in the book information in the catalog? So that all depends on what data source you're using because we essentially copy catalog data. But if you have ISBNs for your records, we'll be able to pull in certain information based, on, we have works and books. So we have an overall work level based on the ISBN or other editions that have been combined and such. So maybe Tim wants to speak.
Like as I mentioned, if you catalog from Amazon, you'll still get a DDC because we know the DDC for the ISBN. So things like that. But we pick up the full MARC record whenever there's a MARC record. So yeah. One thing that should be quickly mentioned is that we can import MARC records, right? I think we can import existing MARC records, and we can also export. So I gather your libraries don't have existing automation, but if you want to use LibraryThing as a stepping stone to spending $30,000 on Cersei next year, be our guests because you can do the cataloging on LibraryThing and TinyCat, and then you're not trapped in it. You can export all of your data as MARC or as other formats too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just if you're picking a system, make absolutely sure that you can export both patron data, transaction data, and import and export catalog data.
And that was going to be my question, because you talked about the mark export, so you can export the patron and transaction as well.
Yes.
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 Okay.
You can import the patron data.
Yep. You can export and import patrons. You can export transactions. Have a transactions import.
No, that would work. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can even
definitely have
export.
one.
You can even export marked data if you didn't bring it in as marked data. So if you bring in Amazon records, for example, if you catalog from Amazon, which is often super easy and fast, then you can actually export mark from Amazon, which is weird but true.
Yep. Oh, Sue. Hi, Sue. Okay, so Sue, not Acer, is asking, started Handy Library Manager. I'm not sure what that is. Is that another program, or I guess it would depend, whatever items would transfer to TinyCat. It depends on what they have for export options. So depending on, even if they can export in a spreadsheet and get a list of ISBNs or something, we should be able to import those for you.
It's some sort of PC app. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I think it depends on whatever you can export from there, which is pretty much why Tim stressed if you're going to choose somewhere, make sure you can export, in case you want to ever leave or go somewhere else. Okay,
We like you as customers. We don't want to require you to stay.
Okay. I can to see if you want to private message me your email address, I'm happy to work with you and we can figure out like what your export options would be, and I can see what we would be able to work with.
Yeah, I'm reading their FAQs, and they say they're all about how you can import, but they don't say anything about how you can export, which I just like.
Yeah.
But who knows?
So it says features. So 1 second. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not seeing export in the features. I'm seeing import, but
yeah.
Yeah, you can check it. It's a Hotel California of library managers. Yeah, I'm not sure. I would look at all your export options or email them, see if they're able to export it all for you. Sometimes sending them an email, they might be able to do a special request for you. I've seen people who are trying to get out of systems do that before. So
yeah. What else do we have? Anything else?
I haven't seen them either, but just looking at the screenshot, I'm saying that, yeah, TinyCat probably, it does look better, I think, but I'm not biased at all.
That's right.
Yeah, good question so far. Anybody else going once? Going twice? All right. Well, I'm always available via email, so I'll just enter my email address here for everyone here. So you can reach me directly at Kristi@LibraryThing.com. However, I already manage all of the TinyCat email anyway. So if you email TinyCat, you'll reach me there as well. And I will get the recording to you, Daniel. Thank you guys for coming. And yeah, have a great afternoon. Or yeah, it's only like 12 at your time. So yeah, great afternoon.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you all.
Take care, all.
Thanks. Bye.